Hey everyone, Shorupan here. This is, as promised, a follow-up to how Global Exchange is releasing a very interesting kind of repackaged product that is going to allow users and brokers to really proliferate the access to crypto. Now, in my previous video, which was kind of a top level kind of reinstating the vision for Global Exchange, I addressed where we stand as a company in pertinence to what we think the opportunity is within the greater cryptocosm. And I addressed also that although getting people access to crypto, and moreover getting people access to crypto in a convenient fashion, is currently the market demand and definitely what people are interested in, that is still representative of an extraordinarily small part of what could be a colossal market. And we know that there are many companies working on making ease of access, something that is as simple as getting any other asset and hopefully even simpler than that. And so we know that that is something that there's already large dollars behind and there's already great minds behind. With that in mind, there's never enough simplicity, there's never enough speed as it pertains to this, and so we know that we have to develop our own infrastructure for it, and that's what we did. Most of you guys encountered Global Exchange solely for that premise. We were an offboard and onboard ramp for the access of cryptocurrency, primarily from US and Canadian dollars, and we really took that part of our business to the next level in about October of last year. So before I go into what the future holds, because it is going to be like a playlist of videos talking about this particular business unit and why we think what we're releasing right now, literally in the next day or so, is so prolific, I would like to take some time to go over where we have come as an OTC solution, as an onboarding, offboarding ramp. So really, Global Exchange was always much more interested in kind of developing and honing a routing engine, a crypto to crypto kind of infrastructure that made exchange trading interoperable. When we came out with that as our fundamental premise, this would have been like March, April of 2019, which is roughly about a little bit over a year ago. And what we realized is that when you juxtapose the idea of crypto liquidity from a crypto sense, like crypto to crypto, and then you added what we then came out with as GX Broker, which is a network, a decentralized network of people who want to onboard, offboard, and also introduce people to different cryptocurrencies, that of course, that couldn't reach its fullest potential without simplifying and continuing to redeem the onboarding process. And so due to actually demand from our brokers at that time, we created the idea of an OTC broker. We created the idea that, oh wow, like not only can we hopefully develop simple solutions, but we can also pay people for getting people into crypto. And that essentially became, I think, the brand of the company, the thing that most people affiliated the company with, definitely the reason that the majority of brokers ever signed up. And so that idea spawned in about May of 2019. And then until October, potentially even November, there were no concrete solutions in this direction. Now, we offered credit card purchases for the first 3 or 4 months, and that was really successful. Like a lot of people were able to buy a lot of Bitcoin through us through that. But of course, the credit card processor that we were using at the time wasn't too thrilled about the enormous kind of risk and chargebacks that this exposed them to. And so that ended relatively quickly. And then we had onboarded several other more compliant crypto processors such as Simplex and now Coinal, and that presented limitations because those countries, because their compliant crypto processors are obviously extraordinarily stringent as it pertains to the type of customer that they can use. And so we had a mixture of kind of the basket solutions, and then heading into October, what we did was we released a more traditional custodian wallet for fiat currencies. Primarily at the time was US dollar, and then about 9 other ones where people can actually deposit fiat currency by wiring money into Global Exchange that would then top up their fiat account, and then they can trade directly on the platform. And this is, Kraken offers this service. A couple other exchanges will offer this service. And what this allowed us to do was essentially then recalibrate buying cryptocurrency into not buying crypto, but actually helping people fund their account simply, because as soon as they funded their account, the conversion between crypto when it's on our platform was obviously just instant. And then of course, withdrawing crypto, withdrawing fiat, these all became elements of this journey, of this kind of onboard, offboard journey. And so we released that capacity in October, and that was a big move because like that was not so clearly done at that time, not by us or not by anybody. And so we went through tremendous kind of pain points around banking in each country. We have banks even to this day in about 4 different countries, and using them in a way that allowed our customers to still have access while still maintaining relationships with those financial institutions. We learned a tremendous amount on turning on e-transfers and then making e-transfers automatic, looking at different local payment solutions in countries like India and the UK. It was just such a great learning curve, but what we realized throughout that process as we continued to hone that process is that this is something that's going to be a dynamically increasing domain. In other words, you have fiat wallets. These could be issued by any company. Let's say at this point they're issued by Global Exchange. They could be issued by PayPal. PayPal has fiat wallets. They could be issued by even your bank. They could be issued by some payments provider. They could be issued by a crypto exchange. And what we're doing now is essentially looking at that as kind of like something the company holds, which is a fiat wallet on behalf of the customer, connecting that with what is a crypto wallet through which the customer can trade into crypto and then withdraw out if he wants to. And then, of course, how can we get people as many ways to be able to deposit in a simple time frame? Well, obviously, the most universally used method of moving money still to this day is international bank transfer or wire transfer, SWIFT codes, IBANs, anything to do with how we can tell two banks to communicate with each other when our customer is wiring money to us. And that's something we continue to develop. That's something that's made easier every time we open up a bank account in a new country, or that's something that's made more difficult when we have to regress away from a bank account in a country that we had one. And so that process is dynamic in multiple ways, but the most important is if we have the destination and the ledger technology. I'm talking on the fiat side. Obviously, on the crypto side, the ledger is taken care of by the blockchain and it's relatively well understood on how to develop internal ledgers from a crypto perspective. But I'm talking on the fiat side, which means that we have multiple central bank accounts that many people in different constituencies can fund their account with. The abilities, which means the vehicles of funding their account, is dynamic and is completely predicated on our reach in that jurisdiction. So let's say that's a country, and then you got to go by state, and then based on that customer's KYC profile, so maybe he has to be over 18 or under 18 or making this much money or whatever it is. That, if you line up the potential amount of funding methods and line up the potential amount of jurisdiction and line up the potential amount of customer profiles that would qualify for any of those, it's literally could be an infinite amount, especially if you consider more countries. And so that was interesting to us. I think that realization was pretty epic and not well understood. I mean, it seems kind of obvious in hindsight, but it wasn't obvious and definitely not obvious in foresight. And I don't actually think it was obvious to anybody in our community because it kind of looked like we had broken that feat, so we knew that this was the way to go. Like, get everyone a fiat account, let them fund in USD or hopefully their local currency, and then convert into crypto or convert out of crypto as they see fit. Okay, well, we're not the only company to figure that out. Now, it's an arms race. Now it's, okay, how can you put your support into place so that people who invariably have issues with any of the funding methods can deal with them? So that's something that is our responsibility. And we obviously are trying to improve that day by day and offer more vigorous support. But then the other one is, how do you actually manage and continue to expand the plethora of payment methods and all of the different levels in that equation? And so if you took us as an individual entity, you could say that we did that in 4 countries, Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, and now India, domestically. Internationally, I guess you could say we did in multiple countries because anybody that wired money from any other country into one of those 4 countries were participating with that. They were just doing international transfers. Then you could say that we did that for payment methods that are quite limited. Let's say e-transfer in in Canada, domestic bank transfer in India and in the UK, domestic bank transfer in the United States, as well as things like Google Pay and stuff like that here. So you essentially, well, it was a limited amount. Then we look at offering credit card purchases, which we did through our brand Instacrypto purchase, where that wasn't even included in this process because that was essentially us partnering with those compliant payment processors where you got crypto directly from them. And so we had a crypto credit card solution that covered a certain type of customer profile. In other words, we were basically willing to take any customer profile, but we had jurisdictional limitations and payment method limitations. Our credit card processing business didn't have really jurisdictional limitations, although a couple countries were exempt. And credit card is pretty ubiquitous technology, so they had a customer profile limitation, like a big one, which meant that they were super, super stringent on what they do, and they still are, and for good reasons. So you can already start to see how complicated this is. And when you look at a company, let's say not ours, and you say, wow, their process is really great. It's really simple. I mean, I can actually speak to some of these companies. There's a company in Canada called ShakePay. So I'm sure some of you know it. Those of you guys that are from Canada. And what they let you do is they have a mobile app. You e-transfer. It's like kind of the same idea where you have a Canadian dollar account with them. You e-transfer in money, and for those of you that are not in Canada, e-transfer is a mechanism of being able to do instant money transfers through email and a kind of protocol called Interact, which connects all the banks in Canada, and you e-transfer them up to $3,000 because that's the limit on e-transfers, and then you can convert into Bitcoin and send it out. It's a really smooth process. It's been that smooth as long as I can remember when I first discovered about them about a year ago. And they're really, it's a great company. And when you look at ShakePay, and then let's say you compare that to our e-transfer process, first and foremost, there's almost no differences. But I can almost assure you, everybody that uses global exchange that maybe or may haven't used our e-transfer process, if you have the luxury of doing so in Canada, feels that it could be better, that there could be a more simplified version of this. And same thing for wire, and same thing for international wire transfer, same thing for credit card. Well, first and foremost, that is something that we should actually put to a quantitative test, and I'm now building a comparison framework. I think I hinted at that in the last video, where we talk about every payment method against every other company, so that as a broker or as a constituent, you have kind of the visibility as to what it is that we do and how well we do each thing that we say we do, or how poorly we do it. But then you have to also take into consideration if you even know the word ShakePay outside of being a citizen of Canada. You don't. You have no clue about that company. You'll never have a clue about that company. That's no knock to them. That doesn't mean that they can't be successful. They're immensely successful. I'm assuring they will be very successful in the future. It just means that they have no US audience. They have no UK audience. They have no European audience. They have no Asian audience. They have no Australian audience. Okay, well, that could be a symptom of focus and rigor. That absolutely is a symptom of focus and rigor, but what it also shows is that there is limitations to what they do, and you can correlate what anybody can calibrate as incremental increases of simplicity at that level, because it's like both of us offer the same thing. Both of us offer instant e-transfers that get deposited immediately, and then you can trade out of it. Let's say they do certain things on the periphery better than us in that exact process. So basically, they've exchanged the entire US, UK, and India market for that. Is that a pragmatic business decision? Sure. They have made that to be a pragmatic business decision. Their shareholders, their founders, their stakeholders clearly believe so. I actually believe so too in certain regards, but we don't, and we never have believed that. And we've decided to tackle big markets that have kind of complex problems. Canada's banking system is, as for all the kind of jokes I make about it and kind of the jokes that everybody makes about it, it's quite close to flawless as it pertains to a fiat banking system. I mean, they have limitations within fiat just being limited and not being attractive. But in the domain of fiat banking system, it's going to be hard pressed for you to find one that's more stable, reliable than the Canadian one. So within possibly the most stable and reliable banking system, they are offering a substrate solution and deserve admiration for that. We are similarly doing that. We might do it a degree worse. In exchange for that degree, we have similar solutions in 3 of the largest markets in the world. Again, you can then hyper-focus in on one of those countries. And maybe countries as big as India and the United States, you'd have to hyper-focus in on a state. And then you'd have to hyper-focus in on a particular company that focuses on a particular state, and again, through a particular vehicle. And again, we probably serve that 1 or several degrees worse than them. In exchange for that, we do e-transfer as well or just as well as ShakePay. And of course, that company never has a notion of doing that. So here we are in something that everybody knows is a sunrise market, crypto. Sunrise, it's going. It's yet to even be defined. Within something that's an abstract compliance and regulatory framework. Abstract meaning nobody has the clarity on it. It is very much musical chairs where you got to try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you get eliminated. And we have done that to varying degrees of success. That path right there is between October and today. I am very proud of what the team has done and what we've done in terms of delivering solutions in that complexity. The only person or the only attribute I'm not proud of is myself for not making it better. Because that is something that we define as it can always be better. It can always be better. Doesn't matter how wide it is. Doesn't matter how deep we go. It can always be better. Okay. Now, if you have the notion that I just outlined as you kind of got a framework for the limitations of onboarding, offboarding, you understood how we've invested in that space and how everybody else is also concurrently investing, then it leads us to the point, well, okay, well, we can either say this is as good as it's going to get because it is symptomatic of the market. And what I mean by that is, trust me, trust me, trust me, this rosy dream of crypto as easy as anything just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for the richest people in the richest country, let alone poor people in poor countries, let alone people that don't want to do KYC or that do want to do excessive KYC. This is very complex. If it was that easy, the companies that have huge balance sheets, Coinbase, etc., would have done it. And Coinbase serves 2 markets. And they've had a lot of complexity in their non-US market, which is the United Kingdom. They've had to this, until, Coinbase always limits sell-side orders in Canada. I mean, I'm not here to knock on them because I think they're a fabulous company too, going through the same things we are. Do they have debit card purchases approval rate higher than we do for American customers that have done KYC and that are abiding within their weekly limits? Potentially, not disputing that. But therein lies what I'm talking about. We are not judging ourselves based on like a unique aspiration of a unique customer profile in a unique market. We are judging ourselves by the degree of access we can give broadly to the most amount of people, not in a narrow, specific kind of highly concierge type fashion, because I think stuff like Coinbase Prime and stuff like that is that, like, okay, we take the richest people in a country, in probably the most wealthy country of all time in the United States, and then say, how can we get them crypto in large quantities or small quantities as simply as possible without them having to lift a feather? That's a real department. That's a department that should be pursued. That is not ours. Similarly, we always thought that the brokers have the kind of the bridge here. Like the brokers are the bridge because they are the ones that essentially take something complex, abstract, and difficult to access, and they can't change the difficulty of access. All they can do is handhold while the difficulty of access is being managed. And in exchange for that, they get rewarded, at least on our platform. And so we do know that the degree to which the brokers are successful is correlated, I don't think dependent, but correlated on the ability of us to manage that difficulty or hopefully one day ease of access. So why am I saying all that? So when we heard all of the complaints, when we heard, not just from customers, brokers, but also like internally, like we obviously are very critical of ourselves and other companies as to why can't this be simpler? Why can't this be easier? Why can't it and we examine day after day, especially this year or the last couple of months where we've really just taken back a step and looked at the drawing board. It came to us And that's, I think, where I was able to draw from the clarity of observation that I already outlined in this video, where I'm talking about a plethora of payment options for a plethora of countries, funding options for a plethora of countries over a plethora of customer profiles, being an infinitely growing list and has to be managed individually. That's when we really had something, because we took what we built with the vault, and most of you know the vault as the wallet platform with Global Exchange, where you can fund USD, and you have USD vaults and Euro vaults and GBP vaults, and you can convert into your crypto vaults with us and withdraw. And so that's where you've heard that term. There's a video coming out where I talk about what the vault actually is, and it's not that, even though that is one of the purposes it filled. The vault is an infrastructure technology that lets any platform or any company monitor, authorize, and then govern a fiat to crypto business like the one that we were doing, and we called it the vault. So when we looked at everything from our perspective, like we had this great infrastructure technology vault, we had great consumer app. And by the way, when I say great, I don't mean great in the sense that we're walking around every day thinking, oh my God, we've developed the cereal of crypto or something like that. No, we are aware of our shortcomings, and within the limitations of time, pursuing to ameliorate them. And when I say great, I mean reasonably functional. And I know that might be a short kind of measuring stick, but when you're talking about cryptocurrency platforms, again, it's not about ideal. It's about better than what it was before, better than the alternative, equally functionally bad as the alternative. And so when we examined all of that, and what we realized what we had was this kind of incredible infrastructure as a service for fiat and crypto wallets, and then trading on that, we realized that we had to siphon off that part of our business. Like the consumer onboarding and offboarding part of our business had to be independent. It had to be independently managed. It had to be independently focused on. It had to also, more importantly, be built as a coalition, not just by us, by a group of companies, that's an ever-growing group of companies that can add to the dimension of payment methods, countries, and profile types, because we clearly cannot specialize in all of them. What we can specialize is creating the platform to bridge that ever-growing group of funding options with a consumer base. Our platform, which allows that connectivity, also is underpinned by a human brokerage network that instigates that connectivity. And so we call that Instacrypto purchase. And I know you guys already know that name because we used that as the website through which we allowed people to buy crypto. But at this point, we've taken that brand, that's actually now called Instacrypto, and we've put a lot of money into it from the perspective of how can we build the platform where any funding method provider, any platform that allows fiat to crypto can come on board and diversify the ease of access that we were able to provide, but we weren't able to, the ease of kind of management, the ease of storage for that, but we weren't able to provide the ease of access, and now opening it up, anybody can provide the ease of access. So in other words, we've turned Instacrypto purchase into a two-sided network. It's a mobile app. First and foremost, it's a mobile app. There is a web app, obviously, but it's all mobile, native mobile, iOS, Android. It's on my phone right now. I will be releasing a video going through every single screen probably today. And it allows you, obviously it has several components. It allows you to find the crypto of your choice. It allows you to choose which country you're purchasing from. It allows you to choose what your desired payment method is. It filters all of the payment methods that are possibly offered through one of our partners, including us, in the country that you said you're in, for the asset that you said you want, and then presents to you all of the potential vendors, including us. And so now, Global Exchange as a liquidity provider is just one of many. We call them bankers, and that's a term that the term bankers is just a euphemism for all of these people that are providing liquidity to Instacrypto purchase and essentially enlarging our list of potential funding and depositing mechanisms. So bankers per se, global exchange is nothing but that, and so are many other users. And these platforms range from the biggest of the biggest exchanges all the way to anybody selling Bitcoin. And now you have a very simple interface that essentially sorts out everything that's applicable to you and then gives you the ability to interact with that. Obviously has the wallets, all specific Instacrypto purchase wallets that are native to Instacrypto purchase that don't have anything to do with your vaults. It's all login with GX. You can easily transfer money from your normal vaults into here and move money out, but you can also deposit money natively into crypto, and you can also now deposit money into these vaults, into this app with any of the funding methods provided by any of our partners managed in that same mobile app. So what this did for us now is, it opened up. So first what it did is it allowed us to take what we built as a management software and provide it to other people. So there are some people who have incredible banking connections, like let's say in a company that has incredible banking connections in, let's say, France. But what they don't have is the infrastructure, software infrastructure to custodialize, transfer, exchange, set rates, all of that stuff, and provide an interface for that. We have that. They have those relationships. They come on board, they manage that process. They manage they provide the value where they can, and we give them the management platform and connect them with this customer base. And now everybody that falls into the domain of customers that particular institution serves can easily manage everything from Instacrypto purchase. So it allowed us to take our vault technology and over a very kind of brisk move, make it something like vault as a service to anybody that wants to use it. What that does for the customer is it gives them the most robust opportunity for being able to get crypto instantly. And that hence the name Instacrypto is, this is no longer, global exchange versus Coinbase versus Kraken versus ShakePay versus the guy that sells Bitcoin at Starbucks. No, this is all of those people that you can sort and sift through, deal with directly on Instacrypto in your mobile app with the leading support already built in that you can now access and deal with. Again, the customer only cares about getting crypto simply. That will never happen. The only thing that's going to happen is more simply. The customer only cares about getting crypto cheaper. Again, will never happen. It can only get more cheaper. And the customer cares about getting crypto in the most diverse amount of ways. It'll never be ubiquitous. It'll just be more ways than before. And the only way to do that is to create what is a two-sided network underpinned by a gorgeous interface that is then allowing the customer to explore, get what he exactly needs, because he's going to filter the results. And when you see the app, you'll know what I'm talking about, and not be restricted. What this allows us to do is remove ourselves as the primary bottleneck. It allows us to then work with partners who specialize in just that. Remember how I said ShakePay specializes in just that, and that's great, and they don't know how to do things in other countries? That, again, I said that's a feature, not a bug. But now we can truly abstract ourselves away, work with companies like that who specialize, and then give our users the best opportunity. As a broker, what this does is now all you need to do is tell someone to download their Instacrypto app, and you tell them, listen, doesn't matter where you're from, what you want to do, what asset, how you want to pay. If it's available, it's there. If it's not available, if it's not on Instacrypto, it might not be available. I mean, and hopefully we obviously going to grow the relationships and the institutional partners to the place where that can happen, the banker list and everything like that. It also then now gives you a commission structure on not just global exchanges kind of liquidity, but the liquidity and the ability for all of our partners to be able to provide commissions, on all of that, because you're now essentially brokering the abstract connectivity platform, which of course makes money transactionally, as opposed to just brokering like the global exchange interaction with your customer. I think it's a game changer. I think it's like, if you thought about local Bitcoins, and of course I'm going to release, there's an entire video series I'm releasing about our solution to that, and a lot of the banker elements play both into our local peer-to-peer market. This is not that. Instacrypto is not a peer-to-peer market. It's a peer to multi-institution network.